Hi, thank you for joining us again. My name is Michelle. I am one of the owners here at York Machine Works, and in this last video of this series, we're going to talk about how to use and set up the Vincing kit. So you should already have your gauge zeroed. If your gauge is not zeroed, please check one of the earlier videos in this series, and it will go over how to reset this to zero. What you do want to check is to make sure in setting up the kit that your needles are in good working order. So here's an example of a bent needle, which is not going to work for our purposes. Also, I don't know if you can see here on the video, here's a nice sharp new needle which will work well. This is a needle that has been used a lot and it's pretty dull, so it might be kind of hard to push through the corks. The other thing we want to check is to make sure that when we plunge this needle in, that we're landing in the head space. So we want to make sure that this little hole here is in the head space and it's not too far down. So this needle is right here on the edge. So when I set up this kit, I'm going to add a little extra spacer to make sure that I'm landing right here in this sweet spot that we're looking for. Now, I just want to point out that this particular needle size is good for about 99.99% of our customers. Very rarely do we get complaints that our needles here are too long. I'm going to show you a quick trick on how to get your kit to work for this if you are on a bottling line and these are too long, how to suck up some space here. And if you need longer or shorter needles, we can make those, but this is the quick on the fly way to get this to work for you. So in setting up your kit, you have your sleeve, your plunger, your gauge, and your needle. And for this example, I'm going to add that spacer to suck this up. If you don't need the spacer, you would just omit this step. So the first part here is I am going to slide my spacer onto the plunger, and then I take my needle and I want to thread it into the bottom. Now you want to be careful with the plastic threads here with both the needle and the gauge. You don't want to strip them out. So start gentle with your fingers and just make sure you feel even engagement here around it. And I'm just going to stick it in until it's snug, and then I'm going to use my 5/16 little wrench, put it up over the hex of the needle, and just snug it up. It doesn't need to be crazy tight. Now with the Vincing kit, I don't know if you can see, there's a little hole in the bottom for this needle to go through, which guides it. So you want to, don't just slam this in. You want to make sure you go in slow so that needle actually hits that hole correctly. And then you want to find one of these little slots, make sure the holes are there for the gauge, and then we're going to attach the gauge. And the same thing, we want to just go slow, make sure the gauge is lined up perpendicular, feel even engagement of those threads, and just snug it out. And then once it's snug, I like to make sure that the gauge is in a position that's easy to read. So that's what works for me. And so this little trick here that I'm going to show you, this is just a cut of 1-inch PVC pipe. That's all you need. You just cut it the spacer size. If you don't have time or you don't want us to make these special needles, that's how we go about it. So for this one, we're going to show you how to measure this head pressure here now. So I pull the gauge up. Oh, the other thing I need to let you know is that this table is a little too high for me. This is not how I would normally check it. So make sure your area is set up appropriately for you. If I was doing this on a lot of bottles up the side, my shoulders would hurt, my neck would hurt. I also don't have a lot of leverage to push through the cork up here. So this particular positioning is just for this video demonstration. This is not how I would do it in real life. So I'm going to pull up on the plunger so that way I have room and the needle's not hanging down, so I can slide it over the neck here. And then I'm going to slide it over. This longer slot is for the plunging position. So once I have slid it over, then I can plunge down. And there I am. We should have a pressure reading. Oh, this bottle is currently reading 0, so that's good. And so you can see how our little spacer worked. It prevented me from plunging it all the way down. And I don't know if you can see just barely here in person, I can see the tip of the needle is sitting right in that good sweet spot where we want it. And so that's how this particular spacer works. I'm just going to pull it off where I can get some leverage on it. So that's how this particular kit works. The safety Vincent works in the same way. You just move it over, slide it into place. Move it over into action lever, slide it into place, plunge down. I'm not going to plunge down on this bottle because it doesn't have the spacer. Now, one thing I should have pointed out earlier is This aluminum plunger is available. You interchange it. And we have some customers that like this aluminum plunger to put in with our regular Vincent kit. If they're changing it out a lot or you have a lot of different sleeve sizes, the threads can last a little bit longer if you're not very careful. So that's one option that is available for you. Now, one thing that we do run into with our customers is they're using this Vincent kit and they're testing, it slides great onto this bottle. They get their next bottle and it doesn't slide down all the way. And so these sleeves are bored out to fit over a drip ring here of 29.5 millimeters or smaller. If your drip ring is larger than that, we can bore them out to size, and then you have a specialized Vincent kit that will work. So how can you figure out what size drip ring that you need? You can either go to like Ace Hardware if you don't already have them and just get a cheap pair of calipers, nothing fancy. You know, it doesn't need to be like the greatest equipment in the world, it just needs to work. So that's all. So I have my calipers, I've set them to 0 and I have them on the millimeter readings. I'm going to find this wide part right here. I'm going to put my calipers on it and get a little reading and turn it around. Now this one fits correctly with that, we know that. So this one has this nice spot that's easy to find the widest part. The screw cap here, this is what was giving us the problem. So if I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh geez, I don't know where it is. So I'm gonna have to take a couple of readings. So this one, 29.5, this top part fits. If I go down a little bit, oh, here we go. This is 29.6 millimeters, 29.7 millimeters. So this is just barely too big for our standard one. So what we do is we take the sleeve, we stick it on the lathe, and we just bore it out. And we can do that for drip rings up to 40 millimeters. Once greater than that, the plastic wall here is too thin. And so then we just have to make you a whole custom sleeve, but we can do it. So this one, we've already bored out to a larger size to fit over this drip ring, or sorry, over this screw cap. And this is empty, so I don't have a sweet spot I'm trying to hit in this particular demonstration, but you can see this one fits all the way over as compared to that one gets some drag. So if I was to measure this, I'd bore it out, measure it, plunge through that screw cap. You can see how easy it actually goes through the screw caps, and then pull it right out. So that's how we measure with the Vincent kit. Now, if you don't have access to calipers and you still need, you need a different size, you can look at your bottle's technical drawings. I have some examples here because they're not always easy to read. And you can always email us your technical drawings if you can't find the information you're looking for. So finding the drip ring using a technical drawing. I have some examples here. So this technical drawing matches much like this wine bottle where you have this thick part here corresponding to this drawing here. Oops. My leaky bottle after testing it. So what you want to find is the thick part. So this is a close-up over here. Here you can see this ridge is the thickest part. So that is your drip ring. And you need to follow those lines up here. So this is 31.5 millimeters plus or minus 0.5. So it gives you an error range because the glass is not always perfect. So you want to see all those numbers there. So the next example here is a screw cap. And you can see much like the example that I had given you, up here where the little threads are is not quite as thick as just below. And so you just want to make sure that the lines you are following up where it gives you the dimensions are for that widest part. This next one doesn't have a close-up, but it still has all the information we need. So you still just need to find that widest part up here and follow those lines up till you find the measurements you are looking for. And again, if you have trouble with any of these technical drawings, just shoot us a copy of the technical drawing. We're happy to read it for you. And size your Vincent kit appropriately. This last one is the hardest type to read. So you're looking here and you go, oh my goodness, there's only an internal measurement and I need the external one. And up here is such a random shape, but what we're looking at is they have taken the neck of this bottle and they're just showing you half of it. Maybe that's easier to see. They're just showing you that half of it. So that's what that hash line is. And you see, here's the top lip of the bottle. You come down. There's that wide edge for the drip ring, and then it comes down, and then your neck would come out here. So what you're looking for is this measurement here that would be mirrored over the other side. So this is 31.5 millimeters. So that's just an overview of how to read your technical drawings if your Vincent kit is not already sized well enough to go over the drip ring. So that's how you do it. I hope you join us for our other videos coming up soon. Thanks.